breaking news out of Detroit. The Lions are expected to part ways with quarterback Matt Stafford. That's according to multiple reports. Stafford holds the Lions' franchise record for touchdowns, wins, yards, and completions. But now he'll be on the lookout for a new team. We are joined now by our senior NFL reporter, Jonathan Jones. I mean, what more can you tell us about this breaking news situation between Detroit and Matt Stafford?
Yeah, so not many people were anticipating Matt Stafford being a Detroit Lion in 2021 and beyond. Listen, you got a new head coach who just got a 6-year deal, a first-time head coach at that. You have a general manager, a first-time GM, a guy who comes from the Rams, and so he knows how to wheel and deal and, kind of make some chicken salad, if you will. You have basically a new regime there, a new owner in Shayla Ford Hamp, taking over for her mother, Martha Firestone Ford. And so as you start to see, there's just going to be a new regime, a fresh coat of paint, if you will, on the Detroit Lions, a team that, as we know, over the decades has struggled to really get over the hump. And so Matt Stafford now with 2 years and about $43 or so million on his contract, while he has played at a fringe MVP level 2 out of the past 3 years, he's also been dogged by injuries. And for the Detroit Lions, as they look at their roster, as they look at the salary cap space, as they see that they're not going to be in a position, even if Matt Stafford is healthy for all 16 games next year, to really compete for a division title, especially with the Green Bay Packers and MVP Aaron Rodgers playing the way that he is. Let's go ahead and hit the reset button. It's better to go ahead and do it now than think that you're going to compete for the next 2 years when ultimately anyone who's looking at this knows that you will not. And so Matt Stafford going on the trading block, and he is good enough. Again, I talk about the injuries, but still, on this side of 35, that's good. A couple of years, if he's playing again at a fringe MVP level, that's a steal. Under $45 million over the next 2 years. And so they will find a trade partner. They're picking at number 7, so they should be in a good enough position to get a quality quarterback there in the first round. They will still have ammunition if they really believe in a quarterback that's not Trevor Lawrence to move up in the draft and get the guy that they want, if it's Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. And so they should feel very good about their prospects. But, the thing about Matt Stafford right now and why it's coming out right now is Matt Stafford wants to land in the best possible spot. He wants to be able to compete for a championship for the first time in his career. He has plenty left in the tank. And so why wait? Why wait until the start of the league year in March 17th and say, you know what, guys, a week going into that, I don't really want to be here anymore. Everybody understood what was going to happen. So let's go ahead and put it out there and let's get some teams interested, figuring out what first round pick, whether it's this year or next year, we, the Detroit Lions, can get for a talent, our franchise quarterback in Matt Stafford.
Before we touch on what this means for the Lions, I want to ask you where you see a potential landing spot for Stafford, and at his age and the fact that he's been in the league since '09, are you seeing him in a starting role, or are we seeing him as a veteran experienced backup helping some young guy in at QB already?
Yeah, I absolutely am seeing him as a starter level so long as all of the injuries check out, which I would hope and believe that they would. There are any number of teams that would love to have him, would certainly improve their quarterback position. It's hard to see, let me go ahead and get this out of the way, hard to see Detroit making a deal within their division. I don't think Matt Stafford is going to go to the Chicago Bears, but the Chicago Bears would be a much better team if they had Matt Stafford on it. You can start looking around. The Denver Broncos certainly are going to have to upgrade at quarterback over Drew Lock. I think a lot of people are looking right down the road a little bit, Detroit, Indianapolis, because they're out of the Carson Wentz sweepstakes now that the Philadelphia Eagles have hired Nick Sirianni as their head coach. That is a tacit admission by Jeffrey Lurie, Howie Roseman, and the entire company there in Philadelphia that they're going to stick with Carson Wentz. Whether you and I believe that's right or wrong, they're sticking with Carson. So now we're talking about Denver, and we're talking about Indianapolis now that Philip Rivers has retired and uniting with a fantastic offensive mind like Frank Reich. Let's go out to Washington, where we don't know the future of Alex Smith, and that's going to be a huge question for the Washington football team, especially now that they have revamped and restructured their entire, obviously business, but certainly football operations side with the hiring of Martin Mayhew as their GM, Marty Herney as executive vice president over there in football ops, and then Ron Rivera obviously running the show. And then speaking of Ron Rivera, his former team, the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper, the owner there, has really not made any secret that he wants to upgrade from Teddy Bridgewater. And so that could be a potential destination there for Matt Stafford. Now, the trade compensation wouldn't necessarily work, at least this year, because the Panthers are picking at 8. You're not going to give up the number 8 overall pick in order to get Matt Stafford. I don't believe you'd want to give up something later in the first round if it's going to be a first-round pick or some sort of 2 second-round picks. What I would believe for Matt Stafford. But also, listen, there's another huge domino that's going to have to fall, and that domino is in Houston with Deshaun Watson. That is going to be the crown jewel if he decides that he's done in Houston. And he'll waive his no-trade clause to get to a Miami or a New York Jets, for example. Once that starts to happen, Sam Darnold's going to have to go somewhere. Tua Tagovailoa is going to have to go somewhere. Those dominoes begin to fall, and that's why, again, Matt Stafford wanted to get in front of this. Go ahead and say, listen, guys, I know I'm not going to be here next year. We don't have to play nice and beat around the bush. Let's go ahead and get the ball rolling so that I can get on the best team possible to finally be in a position to win a championship.
Well, we mentioned it a little bit before that. What does this mean in your eyes to the Lions? You mentioned it, that it is sort of a fresh new set of paint on the walls. Is this completely hitting the reset button by agreeing to part ways with Stafford?
I think so, and I think it was really, again, it was talking about all the walls, a fresh coat of paint. I think the writing was on the wall with who they hired. They hired a first-time head coach, and Dan Campbell, to come over and be the players' coach. The pendulum swung in the complete opposite direction from a Matt Patricia, a guy who was an anti-players coach, coming in there in his first year and trying to clean up the mess from year 1 over year 2 and 3. You bring in a Brad Holmes who came up in different systems in Los Angeles, in St. Louis, with the Rams, with that organization, figuring out, yeah, we're going to draft some first rounders. We're going to trade some first rounders. We're not going to pick in the first round anymore. It's not the Patriots tree that they had been plucking from over the years. And so, again, it's not really all that much of a surprise. You wanted to win more with Matt Stafford, and you can argue they should have never parted ways with Jim Caldwell. I'm not going to argue against you on that, but they made their decisions years ago, and they've had to live with those decisions. And here they are right now with, again, a first-time head coach with a roster that is not going to compete with the Green Bay Packers, even with a healthy Matt Stafford for a division crown. Maybe they're going to get a 6th or a 7th seed, or really you're going to be the 8th or 9th seed in the NFC. You know what that is? That's purgatory. And really, you'd never really want to be in purgatory. You want to hit that reset and just say, listen, we can keep competing for wild cards. Maybe if things break our way in week 17, we're playing for a division. But really, when you set out each season, you have to truly believe that you are in true competition, not a hope, but in true competition to win the NFC North. The Detroit Lions looked at their roster very quickly. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell, I'd have to assume, looked at their roster and understood, looking at the team that's hosting the NFC title game tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, we're not beating those guys on any given Sunday. So let's go ahead, let's reset it, and hopefully we'll be able to compete with the big boys in 2022.
It will be a new chapter for the Lions and for Stafford moving forward. With that being said, what do you think Stafford's legacy in Detroit is now that they've agreed to move on?
Well, I mean, the most consistent franchise quarterback that they've had in how long, right? You'd have to imagine this is a guy picked number 1 overall, given that big deal. That was before the 2011 CBA, and so he got paid a lot of money as a rookie, but then he earned it, and he earned it again. He got that second deal, again, much deserved, and he put up the numbers. And yes, he had Megatron there, and you wish that the franchise would have given him a little bit more. And then, frankly, listen, we talk a lot about quarterbacks' legacies. We just talked about Phillip Rivers. Unfortunately for Phillip Rivers, he played his entire career in the AFC, going up against mostly Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. That's really hard to make it to a Super Bowl there. Well, Matt Stafford has gone up his entire career in his division against Aaron Rodgers. So it's going to be really hard to win a division crown when that's what you're faced with year in, year out, twice a year. So again, you wanted better leadership there at the general manager spot. I thought that Martin Mayhew did a good enough job. He obviously made some mistakes there. Going back, you wish that you don't draft Eric Ebron over an Aaron Donald, for example, and that's something that he's even admitted, and now he's getting a second chance in Washington. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, they were a disaster. Not an abject failure necessarily. Patricia certainly was, maybe not Bob Quinn, but you do want to surround a talent like Stafford with more. And unfortunately, he's just kind of wasted away in a division. And by and large, the national media and certainly a lot of fans, if they're not paying any attention to the NFC North, okay, we tune in on Thanksgiving and maybe he's out there, maybe he's injured. And that's when we really think about Matt Stafford. But he's been playing at a fringe MVP level for the majority of the last 3 years when he is healthy. It's just unfortunate he just never really had that offensive line help. They couldn't figure it out at running back when Matt Patricia was starting Adrian Peterson over DeAndre Swift. And then, of course, the defense just couldn't ever really get it together. So all of those things have led to an unfortunate ending for Matt Stafford. I don't think he should walk away necessarily with a bad taste in his mouth because it sort of is what it is. But hopefully, with him saying, listen, guys, I want out. You guys want me out. Let's get the ball rolling right now here with a couple of days left in January, that he can find a nice soft landing spot before the dominoes really fall, the musical chairs happen, because he doesn't want to be, when the music stops, without a chair.
A lot to look forward to see where Stafford lands, but a lot of changes within the Lions organization. They just hired Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator. JJ, what more can you tell us about that move?
Yeah, so makes a lot of sense. They're a fantastic offensive mind in Anthony Lynn. I think that his shortcomings, no doubt, were about clock management, about game management. Obviously, the Chargers had a lot of very unfortunate injury luck. But he had a lot of shortcomings as a head coach, understanding everything that goes into what a head coach is. And yeah, I understood why he was ultimately let go by the Chargers. But it's also hard to ignore what he did with Justin Herbert in year one. A sort of polarizing draft prospect, gets picked at number 6. I believed in Justin Herbert coming out. I thought that he needed some good coaching around him, and he got that, certainly with quarterbacks coach Pep Hamilton, and then again with the head coach Anthony Lynn, and he turned into what many believe, and he may very well be, the offensive rookie of the year, and he's going up against Justin Jefferson for that crown here in a couple of weeks at NFL Honors. But whether he wins it or not, I thought that Anthony Lynn did a fantastic job with Justin Herbert and really showed that, yeah, you know what, guys, I'm not an overall bad coach. Do I know when to call timeouts? Do I understand end of half situations all that well? No, there's plenty of evidence. There's pages and pages. You can go to the Library of Congress and find all the evidence that Anthony Lynn doesn't really know how to operate offenses at the end of halves, but he can operate an offense and help a young quarterback. So I am excited with the number 7 overall pick for the Detroit Lions, with a young, fiery head coach, a CEO type, if I can borrow that buzzword, for Dan Campbell, with Brad Holmes, an innovative thinker at general manager who has built teams in any number of ways. As I mentioned, Aaron Glenn is the defensive coordinator, a guy who played for the Jets for years and played under Parcells and became a scout and was coached up the defensive backfield for the New Orleans Saints the last couple years, and now he's getting an opportunity at defensive coordinator, when really I thought that he should get some opportunities at a head coach interview. This organization seems like a competent one. Now, am I anticipating great success for Dan Campbell? Do I have any idea what he's going to do in, let's say, end of half situations? Will he take some advice from Anthony Lynn? Let's hope not. But the folks that they're hiring, the things that they're putting in place, going ahead and saying, listen, cut the cord on a quarterback when you know that it's not going to work, when it's not viable for both parties. That's what they're doing right now with Matt Stafford, and it is a very good, if not painful, still a very good first step for this organization.
A lot of shakeup happening in Detroit, adding OC Anthony Lynn, agreeing to part ways with Matt Stafford, Jonathan Jones. We really appreciate your insight and your time. Thank you, my friend. And let's take a profile look here of Matt Stafford, who was the first overall pick in the 2009 NFL draft. He spent 12 seasons with the Lions. In 2014, he was a Pro Bowl player. In 2011, he was NFL Comeback Player of the Year. And he is one of 8 players with 5,000 passing yards in a single season in NFL history.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.